Some days.
My hand hurts. Crampy. My hand hurts. It's crampy. Yeah, huh?
We're good?
Yeah.
Are we in agreement with this?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 18th, 2023 meeting of the Winchester Board of Education. And let us please begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and can we now do the roll? We'll begin with you, Renee.
Renee Waldron.
Jeanette Broder.
Nora Mukarski.
Doug Fenninger.
Melanie Brady-Shanley.
Sandra Strubar.
Tori Lavetri.
Tara Sunday.
And we have one person who may be joining us remotely, and Kristen, I think we're expecting perhaps she'll come in later.
Yes.
Under the agenda review, do we have any changes or additions?
The only thing, if the board would like to make a motion to just move the new budget discussion possible action, we can just talk about that instead of having possible action, since the Board of Selectmen settled last night and we won't need to make any budgetary changes. And Nancy's providing updated budget sheets
For next
tonight.
year?
No, for tonight, yes, for
Okay.
fiscal year '24 to reflect the Board of Selectmen changes. So we have those for tonight.
So we can leave it as it is for now.
Yeah, we just won't need any, well, I guess we
We-
will need a vote on it because it is updated with the new information.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
And the cuts were made.
yes.
So we're moving it to,
It's just gonna
Action
stay
items?
as where it is.
Oh,
Yeah, it'll be,
Item 12,
it should just stay where it's at,
just doesn't,
12A.
there's no possible
So no-
action,
so
just
no
discussion.
changes.
Don't change.
All right, great.
Okay.
I have two comments tonight. One, I would like to extend the thanks of the Board of Education to the town manager and to the selectmen of the town for supporting our budget. It was a big ask, we know that, and it's a difficult budget year, as it always is. But they were very, very supportive, and to date, we have not heard anything about cuts from them. We don't know what will happen at the referendum, but we are extremely grateful that we got that support, because we know it was a significant ask for us. And I think this board and Melanie and Nancy have earned the respect of the Board of Selectmen, so that they really didn't ask us a lot in terms of questioning about the detail of the budget. So again, we're very grateful for that. And I'd also like to extend on behalf of the board our best wishes for a speedy recovery for many of our staff members who are facing health challenges in the weeks ahead. And we want you all to know that we're thinking of you, and we literally wish you well. So, and those are my comments. I don't believe we have any presentations,
No, we do not.
so we can move on to public comment. And we're really rolling out because I don't see any public. So moving on to the consent agenda, which has 3 sets of minutes on it for the special meeting of March 21st, the special meeting of March 28th, and the committee meetings of March 28th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve. Renee?
I'll second. Jeanette.
There's a second from Jeanette. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, great, thank you.
Unanimous.
It is unanimous. Gilbert report. Today, Cheryl, Melanie, and I met with Greg and Holly and 2 members from the state, I'm going to call it DAS, there's another acronym, regarding the eligibility of the Gilbert School for reimbursement for capital project grants. And it started out a little confusing. It seemed like we weren't going to be getting a lot more clarity, but we did in fact end up with an understanding, and I hope this, correct me if
I have my notes here
Okay.
if we need them.
that they will not require us to have a contract with Gilbert. However, they do want to have some sort of a document that stipulates or in some way describes the relationship between the 2 schools historically and perhaps going forward, though that wasn't really very clear.
Correct, it just was an understanding of the relationship that has historically and continually exists between the school.
So with that clarified, the understanding is that it would be, in fact, Gilbert who would be responsible for applying to the state for reimbursements for capital projects, and that there would be no specific, again, no specific contract language that would indicate that there has to be any terms for length of period of the relationship, but there is an understanding that, help me out, Melanie, if I get this wrong. that
Yep.
If for some reason there was a termination of the agreement between the two schools, there would be something called a clawback provision, which would result in the state wanting to get some of its money back, and that would have to come from the Gilbert School.
She can't hear you?
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Push it.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you.
So the clawback would come, Gilbert would be responsible for it to the state.
But is that Gilbert Trust, or would that be?
No.
Gilbert School Court.
Which would then bill us, which it means it's the taxpayer.
No, so everything that they talked about today, whoever pulls this application for the replacement is on the hook financially for the payment of making sure the resolutions are in place, which is part of the application process, making sure that the upfront costs are available for making the initial, having the initial funds to do the project, because it's a reimbursement, it's not a pay and then do type process, or receive and then do. And then if there were a termination of any type of agreement between the two organizations on either side of that, you know, we terminate versus they terminate, regardless of that situation, it's our understanding through that conversation that Gilbert, because they are the holder of the application for reimbursement, is the responsible party for any financial incurrence related to that process. What the hiccup is, and where the process would need to come in, is on the front end of things, is how that front end of money gets taken into account now. So where does that come from?
Right, and so historically, at least for the past few years, Gilbert has requested capital improvement money in their budget for the amounts of between $200,000 and $300,000, which were mostly for roof repairs or renovations. And that's been a line item in their budget, which became a line item, so to speak, in our budget. That could, in fact, be, if that's the order of magnitude of the projects, maybe that'll work in the future. If for some reason Gilbert said, we need $1 million worth of capital projects, then that's a whole different ballgame. And Melanie has suggested, and I don't see why this is unreasonable, that perhaps the trust or the school could consider either a line of credit or a mortgage on the building to get the funds for the upfront cost prior to reimbursement by the state. That didn't seem to be something that that Greg was willing to sign on to. I
But
don't
that
quite
does take the town out of the responsibility loop. That is one option that could be potentially on the table,
Right.
amongst many others.
But the other possibility is if it stays within the order of magnitude of $200,000 to $300,000, and let's say our budget has a $300,000 capital line item for the Gilbert School, and they apply for state funding, and upon the completion of the project, they begin to get reimbursement, then that money could be paid back to the town via us. So, but we would have to have some sort of a memorandum between us stipulating that once you're reimbursed, we want you to make us whole, at least to the extent that you can, because they're not going to get all their money back.
So we're back to a memo of understanding.
It could be, but the other wrinkle is the state will only fund or reimburse for complete roof replacements. To date, the Gilbert School has been doing roof renovations and refurbishments, which they will not fund. So if, let's just I'm just going to throw some numbers out. Let's say there's a roof that potentially would cost, as a refurbishment, $200,000. No money's going to come back from the state as it stands now. If they decide to replace that roof in its entirety, that might be a $400,000 project, but the way the state works is, in addition to the $400,000 for the actual roof work, they're going to want to see some additional design and engineering, and those costs could potentially be another $100,000 to $200,000. So now, instead of a $200,000 refurbishment, you have a $600,000 total project cost, of which the town or Gilbert would only get 70% of that back. So it becomes a little bit of a mathematical exercise, but I think it would still pay off in the long run, but it does add another wrinkle to the whole thing. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but it seemed like we had at least some clarity that Gilbert would in fact be eligible for grants for reimbursement, and hopefully Greg will proceed knowing that to apply for those grants.
Yep.
Melanie, could you, like, put a summary of that meeting up on paper or something for
Yeah.
us? Because it's a lot to digest that Doug had just said.
Absolutely, and I took some notes here. I was able to put some stuff down, so tomorrow
Okay.
I will make sure that I get some notes out to the board.
Okay.
That just kind of summarize those points for you all.
Okay, Renee, did you have anything that's going on at Gilbert that I'm not remembering right now that you want to add, or we good? We haven't met in a while.
I
It's
think
gonna
so,
be. we need-
yeah, no, we haven't met in a while, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Since we're talking about Gilbert, can I just bring something up really quick that's a
Sure.
compliment to them? Their baseball coach ran a summer camp this week because they had spring break, and they had the town players could sign up for it, and they ran an amazing camp. The coach was excellent, his coaches were great, the kids worked with the boys and the girls, and they were great, so it was just really a wonderful community experience for the town. And so I want to compliment them.
What is the
That's
name of the
awesome.
coach?
Geez, thanks for putting me on the spot, Doug. He's new this year. I can look it up, but yeah, he was great, the head coach. No, it's a new coach, and
Okay.
he was great.
Awesome.
Thank you. Correspondence, we have a letter of resignation.
Yeah, so we had a short-term paraprofessional that came to us, and left after about a month, Mario Porcello, so we're gonna accept that with regret. Jackie McAvaney, she is better probably known to all of you as Jackie Petriello, who is our music teacher, long-term, and our drama teacher, who was here last time with the kiddos doing the drama. So there's a silver lining to all of this. Hold on. So while we're losing her as a music teacher, because she's going to be staying home to continue to raise her family, we have obtained her, though, as an after-school component, and we're expanding our CHAMPS program with her. So we are going to be expanding some of our opportunities with more drama and dance and the arts. And Jackie and Teresa are going to continue to head up that. And this Friday happens to be our Annie production at 7 p.m., which I sent you all invites to. I highly encourage you to bring your family, go on a date night. You will be socks knocked off, I promise, at the gifts and the talents that these kids produce up on the stage. If you have never seen one of their productions, please go and watch this weekend. If you do nothing else this weekend, please watch it at 7 p.m.
Great.
And the board always has reserved front row seats, so you get great seats. So,
Good to know, I'll be there.
so if you are coming, just shoot me a text message or an email. Doug's offline, he's just
be
telling me now,
be
so Linda's coming, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yes. So just let me know if like your kids,
text you.
yeah, just text me a number so that I can make sure you have seats reserved,
All right.
okay?
Okay, Melanie, we're on your superintendent's report.
All right. Oh, and I have one more resignation. We have a weird cyclical relationship right now with Farmington Public Schools. So, we just, sorry.
Our sister, our brother's school.
Yeah, there's some relationship going on right now. Seth Beecher, who was our behavior tech at Pearson, who Mrs. Saverio and I appreciated dearly during his time with us. He did a beautiful job. However, he lives 2 minutes from the school that he got hired at in Farmington, so we can't blame him, is going to be going to Farmington with our partner friend over here, Mr. Cullinan. However, we just obtained as a temporary administrator to help Ms. Silverio out, a former Farmington administrator, to come in and fill out our vacancy over at Pearson. So we have this strange circle relationship going on right now. So
It's like the major leagues.
yes.
We'll give you Seth and Seamus, and what do we get in return?
So that's going on. As for superintendent's report, we, want to say we had a great restful vacation of 10 days. I can say that I have not heard a single person say that vacation was not restful and relaxed. Many people got to go on great vacations. Some of us chose to stay home and just relax, and that was a vacation in itself with our beautiful weather. We have students that are actively attending field experiences across Connecticut, Roaring Brook, Down Eyesore State Park, Peoples State Forest, and the Star Lab, for just to name a few. Our walkthroughs were completed during the month of March, and our focus area was on our certified staff members. We completed our Alliance District Monitoring meeting, and that was held, and we received positive feedback. Interviews were held for positions of special education teacher, which we landed a special education teacher the other day, which we're very excited about, operations manager, and we are currently still interviewing for a behavior technician. Social worker interviews were held at Northwestern as part of the Ed Advance Consortium for the Mental Health Grant, and we have received 2.5, so part-time social workers that are covered under this grant through Ed Advance, both of which will be starting May 1st. So we are sharing one between Pearson and Explorations, and that is a male social worker that will be joining us. And I think that's going to be a great influence for our older students at Pearson, to have a male social worker there. And then we have a young lady that will join us at Hinsdale, and we are sharing her between Colebrook School and the Hinsdale School. So we're working that out. We have a third grade student that was recognized. He went quite viral on our Facebook page, Brody Landry, for his efforts during a lockdown during the month of March, and our PD did a wonderful job coming out and recognizing him. We held parent-teacher conferences at both Hinsdale and Pearson, and our latest numbers, Barb and Rosie just got them to us yesterday. So we had 96% of our parents in our district attend parent-teacher conferences for March. We had 97%, I believe, at 98% at Hinsdale and 95% at Pearson.
That's great.
So really, really high number of engagement for families, and kudos to our staff for really doing their diligence about, knocking down doors to get families to come in and talk about the importance of educating their children. Super important conversations. TGS and WPS held the 6th to 7th grade transition night at the Gilbert School. Tara, I'm sure you went to that.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then staff and students, as I started off with, enjoyed a nice long spring break. Under operations, we held the public hearing on the Board of Education's proposed budget at Pearson. I attended subsequent meetings on the Board of Selectmen's side to further understand the movement on the fiscal year budget. As you saw last night, I sent an email. We were here last night till after 10 p.m. last night, and they settled the budget last night where they are moving it to referendum. I know there was an initial conversation that there was going to potentially be a $200,000 reduction to the Board of Education's appropriated side of the budget. They did not make a move on that last night and held our appropriated request in whole. Nancy's going to present, when it comes time tonight, updated balance sheets for our fiscal year 24 budget to the board tonight. I passed my updated security assessment clearance check for background checks on employees. We also have, Nancy is working, I actually have the last 2 copies right now for the security grant that needs to go to the police department tomorrow morning, and then we have submitted and are just awaiting now results on the school mental health specialists grant, so we should hear about that shortly. Staffing assignments have been drafted for the 23-24 school year, and last week, I attended a meeting with Senator Chris Murphy and shared information regarding WPS and our progress academically. And then I also participated in attending the EDC, the Economic Development Committee meeting that was at the Gilson that evening that he spoke at. He spoke largely about the grant funding that Winchester's been getting at the federal level. And he spoke highly of the quality of grants that Josh and the Board of Selectmen have been submitting to the federal level, and how Winchester is really being well represented in terms of obtaining grants, because they have done such a thorough job of submitting well-written grants for federal consideration. So he was here to be able to celebrate the fact that Winchester is getting, I think it's close to $3 million for the Public Works Building grant, so to help, and $800,000 for the radio upgrade, which will in turn benefit the Board of Ed because of the communications inside of some of the school buildings with the police radios. Also have met several times with the town manager. Josh and I have been really communicating thoroughly after last year around the budget, and meeting, calling, texting, just checking in a lot regarding the budget, making sure we're on the same page with it. Participated in the Litchfield County Superintendent's meeting, CAPS meeting, legislative, by the way, legislative budget, biennial budget came out today as a draft. So that came out probably around, I want to say 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. So I will be diving into the biennial budget this week to kind of see where education lines come out on that. And then Doug and I are continuing to meet with Holly and Greg on a monthly basis to just kind of keep each other apprised of happenings and discussions between the two organizations. I think that's really helped to bridge a stronger relationship between the two organizations. In terms of enrollment, just a couple things to bring to your attention. Our enrollment's sitting at 612 right now. I do want to bring to your attention, though, that we are up to 32 special education out-of-district placements right now. It's the highest it's been in quite some time, and I do want to acknowledge the fact that this isn't necessarily due to us outplacing children in our district coming from inside here. We have had a couple friend districts that have sent us some, that we've obtained, that have moved into town, and they have had existing placements from the districts that they have been in, and we are obviously honoring those placements that those students are currently in, thereby absorbing those costs. So just letting you know, we are at the upper echelon right now of out-of-district placements of where we're at, and I would argue right now that probably less than 50% of that number are original students from Winchester. So over 50% of that 32 are students that have matriculated into our district.
Is there any possibility some of those can be brought back to the district eventually?
I think at this point where we're at currently with our students, you know, that's obviously a PPD decision, but I think, you know, right now we're pretty firm on the placements that we have and the needs that we have. I think that's the fairest way I can say that.
It's a whose decision?
So that's a planning and placement team. So through the special education process, which is a legal process, a team has to make the decision as to what the best, least restrictive environment is for the child to be in, whether that's a public school setting or an out-of-district placement, which is more restrictive because of the need of the child. It's not a decision that like I can unilaterally make or Seamus can unilaterally. It has to be in partnership with the parent, the provider that's receiving the child, and then our district team here.
So if I understand it right, a kid came from another school system to our school system, but they were already in another
facility.
Yes. And they were best to stay where they were at.
Correct, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, but more so in the fact that I want you to recognize that over 50% of that is not due to Winchester placement. Our attendance, I am so glad to see that our chronic absenteeism, we are beginning that March slide. So I am beginning to see those numbers as we came up in the wintertime. We are beginning to see that spring slide back down. So I'm hopeful that we will continue to see those numbers slide down through April, May, and ultimately June to get us close to our target for the end of the school year. Gilbert's enrollment is sitting at 405 right now, which is the highest, well, almost the highest enrollment. They had 408 in December, but the highest enrollment they've had for a little bit. On the next page, you can see the breakdown by grade. And then the third quarter financials, Nancy's prepared for you the snapshot, which has all of the main funding resource areas on it on the snapshot. So if you look at the top line there for the town appropriated number, you can see our projected year-end balance right now is 69,240. Okay, I thought you were shaking your head no.
Nothing's gonna change today.
Okay, at the moment, it is 69,240. Our, and the non-lapsing number that you're seeing is from July 1 to now. It is not the full balance of the non-lapsing fund. It's just what was proposed for this school year. We have not incurred spending of $47,000 that was earmarked to be spent this school year. And then in our grants budget, we have around $328,000 that has not been spent to date, which part of that will be what we look to roll over into the next fiscal year as carryover funds. So all in all, when you look to the grants and the appropriated, we have a year-end projection of around $445,000.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
For the grants, is that for a variety of
Yep.
things?
So
Okay.
if you, I can show you, Tara, in 3 pages, on page 24, the breakdown.
Okay.
Yes, I'll show you the breakdown in 3 pages. So on the next page, on page 22, what you can see, this gives you the breakdown of, on the top, the appropriated third quarter year-to-date financials, basically breaking down what that balance of $69,000 soon to change, according to Nancy, will be, and where we stand. And then at the bottom, she has Fund 12, which is the non-lapsing fund budget. And again, I just want to remind you that is what was supposed to be utilized during this school year. That is not the whole balance budget of the 2% non-lapsing fund, which was left over unspent at this moment of $47,000. Next page is just a kind of reiteration of that model, but if you flip, Tara, to your point on page 24, this is the list of all of our grants, which is in total by about 20 grants, both federally, state, and locally, and what their balances are projected to be by the end of the school year, and then what the carryover amounts could potentially be in that year-end calculation.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
But not all of it gets rolled over, right? Not every grant is automatically
Correct.
carries
There
over.
are some grants that are expenditure grants, meaning you have to expend them within the one fiscal year. And then we have other grants that are allowable to have carryover percentages. Usually it's somewhere between 10 and 20% given the grant. And then you can carry over that amount. Also, what you're seeing Nora point out in there is that we, for like IDEA 611, you have the current one and then you have the IDEA carryover. So that was carryover funds from this past fiscal year that Nancy's goal now this year is to expend those carryover funds because that line of carryover funds wouldn't carry over into fiscal year 24. So we want to zero out that carryover line before we zero out the one that actually has the ability to carry out into next fiscal year. So if that makes sense.
That's the dash and the projected year rate.
Correct. Yes. What we would not want to see is that there's still $143,000 in the carryover line for this year. No. In our food service account, you can see that we have, that number has come down from where it was last month. We were sitting, I want to say, right shy of $20,000 of a balance last month. We're sitting right around $5,500 as a projected balance in the lunch account. I actually asked Nancy because I thought that was a larger drop than what we were typically seeing month to month. But part of that was due to wages because in March, I forgot, we had 3 paycheck cycles in March. So that's why the extra wage amount had come out and it looks a little lower than what we had seen in the month before. So One thing I do want to point out, though, we're at a good point, 3/4 the way through the school year right now, where we can look at how our daily meals volume is going. And I just want to point out that we have more kids eating free breakfast and free lunch every single day than we have historically ever. So it's great to see that our kids' bellies are full every single day. They're accessing the free lunch and free breakfast, and that's a great resource that they are utilizing on a daily basis. And I'm sure it's helping families to know also that their kiddos are well fed on a daily basis for school.
Will that continue? Because I know they talk yes, no, yes, no.
We will we are part of the National School Lunch Program for free and reduced lunch because we have a high percentage of students who qualify. So there was that threshold that we had talked about 4 years ago when we first became, which was trying to get that 50% point. We are over 50% because of our socioeconomic status in our town.
Okay.
So at this point, as long as we continue to apply, I don't see why, unless something changes economically in our town with our socioeconomic status, we would not continue to qualify.
Okay.
Just add one thing.
Sure.
So I didn't have the March volumes when I did the report because of vacation, everybody was out. But the March volumes came in very, very similar to the November volumes, which you will see are the highest volumes that we've had all year. So as Mel was saying, I mean, it's just, the program's going strong.
It's great. And they do, being in Pearson and seeing them, if they come in late, like off the bus or a parent brings them in late, like kids are asking like, hey, can I go get a breakfast before I go to class? Like they're seeking it out, which tells me one, they're hungry and they want breakfast, and two, that they're enjoying the breakfast and they're enjoying the food that's offered to them. So I try to eat school lunch every once in a while, depending upon what's offered on the menu, but it's not that same fallacy of like the school lunch. So the kids are enjoying it and they have great options for them. Donut Day, I will say, is a pretty hot commodity though when it comes around at Pearson. And that concludes my reports.
Thank you, Melanie.
Contract? Contract highlights and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's one thing we need to talk about, which is the prepayment model to reimbursement model for Nancy.
Okay.
That's after the
That's after.
service. I thought,
No, it's right now.
oh, it didn't make it up? Okay.
It's after the fiscal, the report, the financials.
So that's 10F.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's up to Nancy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Nancy. So 10F on your packet deals with how the state is going to be paying grants to the district. So in the past, we have always operated on kind of they give us the money, we spend the money, like a prepayment type situation. Nancy's gonna go into depth right now. They're changing that come July 1. So they're going to a reimbursement grant model. So I think it's important that the board understands the difference now in that switch and what will take place July 1 and how that will change kind of some of our operating that we do in
Yeah,
that
it will.
capacity.
I see.
Nance, could you come up and maybe use a microphone, please?
Yeah. Actually, can I borrow Renata's? Thank you. So,
Do you want to just sit there? Is that more
okay.
comfortable?
Welcome on board.
I was gonna say, the comfy chairs, those benches, I wanna move the benches up here, because it would make the meeting last about 15 minutes. Go really fast. So, in the past, all of our grants, well, almost all of our grants, have been prepayment grants, where we could draw down X amount of money, and then we would spend it during the year. And if we drew down too much money, then we got our hands slapped, and we had to produce a boatload of reports on a monthly basis, and that was how they tortured us, that we would not draw down too much money. So in recent years, first it was, well, we're only going to release X amount of money per quarter. So you can only draw down so much, and you have to carry the rest of it. But we had enough of a cushion, because I never wanted to have to go back to the town and say, will you cover our grant costs? Because of the fund accounting that we do. So, then it became, and then some of the grants went to, well, you're only gonna be allowed to draw down so much monthly. It's like, oh, well, this is getting very nitty. And then the rumbling started, well, the state's gonna turn all of the education grants into reimbursement grants. And my experience with reimbursement grants thus far has been mostly with security and facility grants. It's not like the building project that we just did, but it was a very onerous process of actually having to provide not only the accounting, but every single invoice to back up every single penny. And if you were off by a penny, they wouldn't give you the money. So the Board of Education, in its infinite wisdom, has contacted CASBO, my professional organization, asking for volunteers to help them determine how they're going to do this, because they haven't figured it out yet. They have not given anyone any clues. We know it's going to have an impact to the business office. So stay tuned, because as I told my folks yesterday, you're gonna have to just stay light on your feet and keep your sense of humor, because I'm sure as other things that have been recently rolled out, like CT Sense, it's going to be another too quick to market and a lumpy process.
So Nancy, in addition to the additional work, potentially the cash flow implications could be really difficult. In other words, if you spend $100,000 out of our pocket, expecting it's going to be reimbursed, and for whatever reason, it's a 6-month period to get that, you've got to find that money somewhere.
Carrying costs.
They did tell us that they would let us do drawdowns on a weekly basis, as opposed to monthly, which is what it is right now.
A drawdown is a reimbursement, though.
Exactly, exactly. And I also have spoken with the town treasurer and the town finance director. And they were very comfortable just saying, we'll cover it.
Really? Who said that?
The town treasurer and the town finance director.
Really?
Yes. So, I mean, I laid the whole thing out, I gave them the letter, so they know exactly what's going on. And most of their grants at this point are reimbursement grants, so they have been through that drill. But heaven forbid that OPM and the education side of the state would do things in a similar fashion. So we'll see what happens.
So your biggest concern right now would be that you just have to be excruciatingly exact to make sure you get your money in a timely way?
Yeah, and I'm also going to draw down everything I can before year end, so I've got a cushion to start out.
Yeah.
And we're confident that all of our expenditures are going to be covered by, like, that there won't be any pushback?
They can't, no, they won't renege, no.
Oh.
I've never had that happen.
Okay.
And they've got us starting to do more and more COVID money reporting for the ARP and the ESSER and the extra, was it 12, 15 grants that we've had for the past few years. And some of that reporting, it's not that there's so much going for gotcha on the penny. It's more they're looking for information because they have to feed it to the feds, so it can be used to publicize how wonderful the money was.
Like impacts.
It was given to, and what the good things were that have been done with it. So it's those sorts of things in that reporting. So yeah, we just don't know. So we'll see what happens.
You have to really be tight and clear with your invoices and well organized.
I've got a very well-organized person for that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, she's good.
That's good.
Yeah, and very
Details.
painfully exacting.
Well, best of luck.
Well, thanks, I'll keep you posted.
Holy smoke. But the town treasurer said, okay, we can kind of cover the gap
It
or the
was
flow.
it was no issue.
Wow.
Because there are other towns I've worked in where, it would be a quick excuse to, not fund a check run or
Yeah,
something.
right.
Yeah.
Little nervous Nelly.
Yep.
Okay.
Crazy. Hey, Doug,
Okay,
All right.
the coach at Gilbert is Jorge Pimentel.
thank you.
Yeah?
You should put that in the minutes if we can give it to
Yes.
Barb.
I will, Barb, I'll give you his name.
Was he the selectman?
He ran. Coach Jorge ran. And then Tom. Jorgentmental. And I probably just messed up his name. Baseball, Gilbert.
We need to approve the food service union contract this evening.
Yes, so Nancy and I worked on negotiations with the food services organization contract. So the term is set to be a 3-year term. We have negotiated a 2.83 gross wage increase annually. We have added under compensation uniforms to be eligible for reimbursement, but we set a limit on that. And then we added a $10,000 life insurance for them. Currently, they're one of the only individuals in the district that did not have any sort of life insurance protection. So we added that. In terms of paid time off, they did not have Columbus Day as a holiday, a paid holiday within the district. Most other individuals in the district had that as a paid holiday, so we did give that to them. We added 1 day of bereavement leave for them for extended family. As a commonality throughout the district, most bargaining units and non-certs have 5 bereavement days. They were one of the contracts that only had 4, so we brought them up to everybody else with 5. And then for retirement bonus, they had a really long notification requirement in there for which was a 6-month notice. So we agreed to bring that down to 3 months notice to be eligible for a $350 retirement bonus, which is nominal. And then there was just general cleanup and clarification of the language. So I think the biggest thing that they were really looking for was a stronger wage increase was where they were really going.
Did these people qualify for the bonuses being given to essential workers by the state in any way?
No,
Because they were on the front line through the pandemic.
they absolutely were. We did provide them with extra
I
pay,
remember that.
but no, they did not qualify. School employees were not part of that.
How many food service people do we have?
Under 15,
How
It's a
many?
small group.
15? Under 15?
under 15.
150.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought I heard too.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. And do we have a new hire or two?
I would
to
like
vote.
to get this,
We got to vote on the contract.
to get a motion, please, and a vote.
Is there a motion to approve the contract as described by Melanie with the food services union?
I'll make the motion.
That's from Sandra, second from Tara.
Sandra.
Any
Second, Tara.
discussion? If not, all in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Unanimous, Barb.
Okay, we have a few new hires for operations manager, which we moved to a part-time position. Raphael, he's joining us, has a strong finance background, 20 hours per week, 5 days a week. He's getting paid $35 per hour for that particular position. And that's out of Seamus's office, taking over for Julia, who went to become the business manager down in Barkhamsted. Mara White, paraeducator for the Gilbert School we are moving forward with. Victoria Hansen, special education teacher. We've had that opening now for, I want to say, close to 5 months, and we have finally landed a special education teacher, so we're excited to have Victoria join us. The official hire recommendation for Cassandra Murphy that you did during the special meeting last week.
Thank you.
Okay, so the para, oh my gosh, sorry, para. Cassandra Murphy, funding source for her?
She's general budget.
General budget.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
New business. Here's that, Nancy.
Nance, do you mind bringing up the copies?
Big business here.
Nancy, would you mind coming back up to the comfortable chairs here, please? Do you want to walk them through the changes
Sure.
on the
I'd be glad
paperwork?
to. I would be glad to. So, what I did was I added a column, third from the right side, of what the Board of Selectmen modified for us. And then I'll tell you what the cuts are. So, in the wages line, and this also has a ripple effect into the employee benefits, a minimal ripple effect, but
So
some.
Nancy, you're on page 2, correct?
Sorry,
So I
yes,
was on page 1.
sorry, yeah. Well, we can start with page 1. I mean, the bottom line budget was, the appropriated budget was cut $200,000. That was the original cut that was discussed, and that's the cut that sustained. And then the town support for education was decreased $100,000, and that was mutually agreeable because we had not been able to partner with the town on electric, and they were able to make that happen in time for the budget. And at that point, we were looking at a potential 50% increase on the supply side. So it was great to be able to have that come down by that amount of money. So that was a huge,
Was that an evening out then?
what do you mean, an
For us to
evening?
be able to be budgeted in with the town electric? Was that an even trade, I guess I'm asking? You're
No,
saying
it was
100.
another decrease of our available resources. So if you look at your top page that talks about resources, you'll see that the Board of Ed budget assumption was
Yep.
24, bottom line was 24,850,000.
Right.
And it's gone down to 24,550,000 as a result of 200,000 coming out of the appropriated budget and 100,000 coming out of town support for education.
So I just want to be clear on the $200,000 coming out of the appropriated budget. That is not a reduction per se, a cut, that we need to make a cut. That was a transfer, so they brought our budget number down.
No.
This is where I'm disagreeing with you, Nance.
Okay, all right.
So they have, my understanding is they were taking $200,000 from the general fund. They created a new line in their budget, and they placed $200,000 into that budget for the usage at our discretion for the potential TGS roof. That is
That's my understanding.
That is my recollection and my understanding of the line transfers.
Yes.
For the TGS roof.
Yes, it was
Okay.
designated as a one-time capital project
Right.
for the purpose. The Board of Education obviously has discretionary use of that money, but I think there was an intent behind it for the Gilbert roof. So the town still has to give the Board of Education that $200,000. It is not a reduction to the Board of Education. It's a new line in the Board of Education budget in the amount of $200,000. So in our
It's in the Gilbert, it's still in the Gilbert line because it's
No, but
earmarked
in
for
our
Gilbert.
appropriated funding, so see where it says at the top on the first page, 21,860,000 was what we had requested.
Right.
We, in my opinion, should still have 21,860,000
Yes.
I agree. Sure.
in that